Hi, everyone, and welcome to Eye to Eye. Yesterday, 5 victims of clergy sex abuse met privately with Pope Benedict and got the opportunity to voice their pain to the head of the Catholic Church. They told CBS News about their emotional experience.
I went first, and the setting was difficult for me in a chapel. The most traumatic for me was an altar boy being abused in the sacristy. The innocence of a child in his little uniform praying and getting sexually abused. And I told him that when I was an altar boy, I was sexually abused in the sacristy while I prayed. And he acknowledged it. And then I said it wasn't just sexual abuse. It was spiritual abuse. And he looked, and he squeezed a little. He looked over to Sean O'Malley. It was hitting home now on another level. And that's what I wanted. And then I went one step further, and this is something I didn't want to do, but it has to be done. I told him he had cancer in his flock. His flock meaning his priests. And he looked back right in my eyes, and he acknowledged, and he squeezed my hand, and I touched his heart. And so it was emotional, and it was not a lot said, but there was a lot going on there is what I took out of that.
I took 2 pictures before I was abused, the year before I was abused, and I gave them to the pontiff. And I've carried those pictures. I've been a source. I'm a big guy. It's a disconnect when you look at me and say, you were abused? Me? So I take out that picture of those children, of myself, and I gave them to the pontiff. And I said, whenever you get to a point where you don't know what to do, and you have any doubt whatsoever, put these in front of you. This is who you are protecting. Not me, not Olin Horn, the innocence. In anything, the innocence. Preserve it. And that's a huge responsibility. He accepted that, and I think he accepted that job when he took the pictures. And that's a beautiful thing for me.
What I wanted him to hear was the anger I had felt. I wanted him to get to know me. But when I got up to the Pope, I actually didn't really say anything. I just sort of mumbled thank you, and then I kind of burst into tears, and I really didn't say anything. He did all the talking.
When you hear sorrow, when you hear the sound of sorrow that came from your voice, that sound of sorrow was a voice of many that came through. It was the sweetest sound of sorrow that I've ever heard in my life, that represented every survivor that I've ever heard, that came off the walls. But it was a sweet sound because it had been released. It was exhaled. You spoke volumes. You spoke volumes for so many people. It was the sweetest sorrow sound I've ever heard in my life. And it forever changed, not myself only, but the pontiff heard those same sounds. There was nobody that could close their ears to those sounds.
This is the first time that I felt somebody at the head of the Catholic Church has got it. And this is what I wanted so bad and tried for back in 2003. Because it starts there, it has to go there rather, and then come back down. So many people are in pain, and it can be lifted just by this one man who I don't really want to give credit to, but somehow, on some level, this is where it has to start.
I mean, the church obviously still has a long way to go, but yesterday, for the first time, I felt much more hope than I have felt in a long time. I've always stayed very strong throughout this whole process, but yesterday I felt a greater inner strength. And at Mass yesterday, for the first time in a long time, I felt proud to be a Catholic, and that's something I have not felt in years.
The apology at the Mass, when he apologized for the sexual abuse, I don't know why, it just hit me like this was the ultimate moment of change. More than even meeting him, for me, was right there. I wasn't prepared. I started to cry. I didn't want to. I tried to hold the tears back. I put my sunglasses on. I was in the shade. It didn't matter. I think historically, you're going to look back at that moment as the new beginning here, or phase 2, however it's going to be labeled. But that was the crowning moment for me.